Welcome to another episode of JDM Legends presented by Turn 14 Distribution. Today we're going to show you how hard or easy it is to remove the powertrain out of the mighty GTR. If you guys didn't tune into the last episode, then you will not have known how many issues we had getting this engine ready to yank. We've just been struggling with it. There's been a lot of small little knickknacks here and there, like hoses not coming off, pipes being a stubborn pain in the butt. But we are now at a point where this engine is almost ready to be removed. I spoke to my buddy Radek over at RS Tuning, and he told me, who does a ton of these, he said the best way to remove the engine is actually to separate it from the transmission, the gearbox, and then just lift this out. Originally, I had plans to just drop the entire strut frame, but after looking at it, there would be a ton of stuff we need to disconnect, and this is the easier way to go. So we're gonna get this thing up and start looking around the gearbox area to see how easy or hard it is to remove that thing. This car obviously being all-wheel drive means we've got a whole lot more work to do over a rear-wheel drive setup. We have the front drive shafts that we have to disconnect here. And this is what I was mentioning, which is a pretty unique feature on the RB26, is that it has a centrative cast into the front oil pan. So there's an axle and a diff right here that run through the oil pan. So we're gonna disconnect the drive shaft on the side. In the back here, we have a prop shaft running back here as well that we're gonna have to disconnect, and then pretty standard stuff in the back here with the drive shaft. Ooh, I just noticed this. This is also a Getrag gearbox.
Nice.
Much like the V160, so we're in good company here.
Is it as strong as a V160?
I think it is, actually.
Yeah?
I think it is. I don't know, you know,
Is it as expensive as a V160?
It is as expensive, man. You want to talk about something crazy on a tangent here. Originally, when I was looking to buy an R34 engine, they were up in that, I think it was like that $6,000 engine. I was like, man, that is expensive for an R34 RB26. Now, I don't think you can get one for probably under $12,000 to $15,000 for the engine. The gearbox, you combo these together, it's like 25 grand. It's
Ouch.
insane, and that's like on the low end. So that's why we are reusing this gearbox. Ideally, I would have loved to have bought a R34 powertrain where we would have just swapped this stuff out, but this is still gonna work. Man, they are on there tight.
Yeah.
They are coming loose, thankfully.
Wow, those are tight.
Oh.
Holy cow.
Ooh, well, yeah, this is another problem. We are into, what is this, like struggle 752 DP?
Feels that
maybe,
way, yeah,
maybe?
yeah.
No, we're probably just high 50s.
Sure.
Anyways, we've hit another snag. The top starter bolt is just a nightmare to get to. I can't seem to get a wrench down here. We tried from below, could not access it. I can see it, it's clear to me, but I just can't seem to get my wrench onto it. I have now swapped out to a shorter wrench here, and oh my God. There it goes. Okay, I got it, wow. Thank you, Milwaukee. These wrenches have certainly been coming in quite handy here. Christ. It's a disaster, but I guess there you go. If you're doing this job, then you know, you just reach in under the manifold, plenty of room. You're just gonna get scratched up everywhere and just turn the wrench. Look, it's so easy. It's like, so easy. It's super easy, isn't it?
It's like you're a proctologist in there, PT.
Oh,
Your
yeah.
elbows deep.
Yeah, except I'm not looking at what I'm doing. There it is, that's one. On this side, I've actually had to add an even longer extension on here. Get it up into there. I see it. Let's see if I can get it on here. Oh man. All right, humble brag here. My skills are pretty damn good. It's on. And it's out. Here it comes.
There it is.
Ding! Yeah, it's coming. It's ready to come out now. Down here a bit more. Oh, damn it! Ah, my plug. There it goes. Okay. Yeah, we're out.
I feel like one of those deep sea fishermen who just like pulled a massive fish out of the ocean.
You caught your marlin.
That's it. Look at the size of this thing, eh? It is a beast, but look at how clean it is in here. Typically that's just filthy in there, but I guess someone has not abused the clutch on this car.
Or the clutch is relatively new.
Could be, yeah.
Kind of seems like it would be at that point. I think there's some writing on it, right?
There is like a 384 on here.
Yeah.
So
Again, I don't know if
maybe it
that's
is new.
stock or not, but you know what we're gonna do? I think we're gonna pull the clutch off anyways because it's gonna give us a little bit more clearance to pull the engine.
Yeah,
Look how big this thing is,
is-
man. Like
it
that
is
is a
beefy. Yeah.
beefy unit on there. What do we got here?
Looks pretty good.
Oh yeah, wow. It looks like it's got a lot of life left. in
Yeah.
it.
Just a good old fashioned full face organic sprung clutch. Nothing fancy.
The rest of this car is fancy, but the clutch isn't. And that is a dual mass.
Oh yeah. It's heavy, but it's not like crazy heavy. I'd say it's like 25 pounds maybe.
Is it a dual master?
It is, yeah, for sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But it's in good shape too. Like you can see there's, a couple of mild hot spots there, but
Yeah.
this
Well,
car
it
was
wasn't
not
slipping.
abused. Not like the Supra, that's for sure.
In order to yank the drive axle out of our center diff here, what I'm gonna do is crack these two nuts loose to take the ball joint apart from the hub and the outer tie rod, and then I'm hoping we'll have enough wiggle room to like pop it out of there. But we will soon find out here. Oh man. And I'm using one of our latest and greatest Milwaukee Impacts. This thing is tiny, so it actually has like a lot less weight than your big boy, but the amount of torque that it packs, geez, I forgot what the max is on it, but you know what, I'll post right here, you'll see it right here, the max torque, and it's actually very, very good. It's a very strong tool, and you can see it handles even some of the toughest nuts.
Took the flywheel bolts out, which is impressive.
Yeah. I like this because, like, as I said, when you get into the big ones that you're using to like torque wheels and that kind of stuff, they're just a little bit heavy and cumbersome if you're using them all day. And we find with a tool like this, it's just like so nice. It's kind of light, even with the battery on here, and it's just so much easier to handle. After a few unsuccessful attempts to separate this, I've kind of resorted to the idea that the load that is pushing down, like I can't really lift this up because you've got all the rest of the suspension pushing down on it, and the way the control arm is in here, it is pushing up on it. So I've got two forces working against each other. We're gonna be replacing a bunch of the suspension on this car anyway, so what I think I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this long bolt out here on the upper A-arm and take this bolt, or the stud that holds the suspension in place, just take this all off, and hopefully that'll give me enough room to like move this outwards. Another tool that I find comes in very, very handy to be non-destructive with ball joints is this ball joint splitter tool. We're using this on the tie rod end. It doesn't really harm the boot, and that's the most important thing in this type of situation if you're reusing your tie rod end, like we are going to. And then all I do here is just turn this until it pops, like that. And we've got ourselves a tie rod end that's been removed without any breakage. Next challenge we have run into here is, of course, getting this drive axle out. There is no access here. I can't even like get my pry bar on. There's like this tiny little lip, and you can see it just like pops off. Usually what you would do is have two pry bars on both sides like this and then pry it off here. I can't even get in on this side. I'm honestly out of ideas here. I kind of wish we just dropped this whole thing as a whole with the subframe now because of these tiny little nuisances that just continue to add time and stress.
Let's
to
just
this
pull on the shaft until the CV fails.
Yeah, and then we'll tear it apart. So I don't know, if you guys have a good solution for this, post in the comments, guys. We have ourselves a win, finally, for a change. As you can see, this is now out far enough back that I think we're gonna have no issues with this side just going straight up with this motor pulling out. So I wish they had done this same design on the other side here, but I'm still scratching my head. I'm sure I will come up with something, and I'm gonna hit the old Google and see what people say. Having a lifeline like RS Tuning DP is a savior here. I called Radek again and said, hey man, how do we get this axle out? And he told me, pull the plug on the center diff, the fill plug, slide a screwdriver in, rotate it around, or rotate the diff around until it opens up with like the spider. You can see the spider gears and you can see the stub in there. And then what I did is I stuffed the screwdriver in there and then came in here like this and then just like tapped on it. And now I'm just tapping it out. There it goes, people. Yes, victory. It's coming out.
You guys ever needed proof that a 2J and rear wheel drive's all you ever needed? This is it, folks. This is it.
No way, man.
2J and rear wheel drive for life, bro.
All-wheel drive, four-wheel steering, 2 turbos. What could possibly go wrong, DP?
2 days to pull a motor.
What could possibly go wrong? Engine hoist is hooked up. I had to make a couple of mounts for the RB to kind of hold it in place. And we should be able to start lifting this thing out.
Oh yeah. Maybe a tight fit back here.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, wow.
And really, I think the way the engine mounts are, they're pointed outward, so one side has to come up and then the other side can kind of like swing out. So I'm just gonna continue to jack this up while making sure we're not hitting anything. You can see now everything's starting to come up, which is kind of what we want here. I think all our major hurdles have been passed here. We're gonna make it out of here without damaging anything, which is really good. I was worried that we'd be contacting the chassis, but it does not look like that's the case here. So we are looking really, really good here. Yep. We finally have the engine out of the bay. That was quite the effort, but I'm glad it is finally out here. And that means this is not gonna get tucked away right away. We still do have a bunch of stuff that we have to pull off of this to put on that R33 engine because there are some differences. However, what we're gonna do is get that R33 engine onto an engine stand, and then we can start comparing some things. Guys see, we did take a little bit of a precaution. We did put a jack stand underneath there. It is a lot of weight, the center diff. I never trust putting the inline sixes on here with so much weight onto it. I'm just worried it's gonna crack the block. I don't know if it does. The factory manual actually says you're supposed to bolt it onto the side of the block, with like a special tool. So we don't have any of that. Anyways, I wanted to just go over real quick. As you can see, both motors look very, very similar. There are some minor differences right away that I noticed. The cam angle trigger here is a little bit different than the R33 one. Tommy F actually told me the sensors, or maybe it's just the trigger there for the R33 and R34 are different, so the cams are different, so there's a little bit of variation there. I'm gonna have to figure out. The 33 comes with an igniter, so the ignition system is very, very similar, except that you can see it has an igniter here and a plug here. On the 34 system, it has just one plug and no igniter. And peculiarly, look at this. Our valve cover is broken, people.
Oof.
That's not good.
The $10,000 valve cover.
I know. You know what? I mean, worst case, this could be welded up, cleaned up, and then powder coated or painted that you'll never know the difference. But man, that's kind of a bummer to see that. However, I am going to redo the valve covers on this engine. Look at the difference. You've got the Nissan Skyline GTR logo here, and here you just have the Nissan twin cam. And speaking of which, there are a lot of GTR logos on here. This reminds me of the BMW M5 wagon series where we counted all the GTR logos. There are quite a bit on this vehicle as well. Nissan was telling us something. Oh, and one more thing, the diff, as you can see, the center diff here looks to be exactly the same as the other one. I mentioned in a previous episode, this is for a 5-speed, so this has the 411 final drive, and I think the other one is a 3.7-ish. Anyways, we do have to swap those over. I actually thought long and hard. Some of you posted, why don't you just do the R33 rear diff and then you'll have a shorter final drive, which would be amazing. However, looking at the amount of work it takes, and I just could not find any concrete evidence whether I can bolt up the rear V-Spec R33 diff, because there is a difference between V-Spec and non-V-Spec. There's just so many differences, whether I can bolt that one up in the back as a turnkey solution. I don't think I can, so there's a little bit of work that needs to be done there. Anyways, what that means is I'm just gonna stick with the final drive, the OE one, and just swap over the oil pan from there to there.
But wait, there's more. Since Pete just did a comparison of his two RBs, I thought, why not roll in the greatest Japanese motor ever built and compare it to an RB? Which,
That's arguable.
well, is it though, Pete? Because when you really start to break it down, we got 3 liters, you've got 2.6 liters. And I think if you do the math on that, most people will agree 3 liters is more than 2.6 and therefore better. You've also got an engine that'll make 1,000 horsepower without doing anything to it. And over here, you've got a ticking time bomb that needs oil pumps and all kinds of other stuff done before you make over 500 wheel.
To be fair, they both, from a stock block perspective, make very, very close. I think around 700 to 800 horsepower.
Can you make that much on an RB?
I think you can. With the turbo, with the right supporting turbo on a stock block, I have seen it done.
Done as often and as reliably as a 2J? I doubt it. In any case, let's talk about the ITBs, which for a lot of people would be a selling point. They'd be like, ooh, ITBs make great noises. Except they don't really make great noises when you put a giant aluminum manifold over top of them, and they add a whole bunch of complexity. But over here we have this nice compact intake manifold, which doesn't seem to limit power in any way since, as I said, 1,000 horsepower. So, a bunch of complexity, maybe for nothing. Maybe slightly better throttle response, but I don't know. I'm a little skeptical on that one. But most importantly, let me point out this little thing right down here. This is, of course, a part of the whole all-wheel drive system, which I would call your power-sucking, understeer-inducing additive on this motor, which this one doesn't need, because it is gloriously designed for a rear-wheel drive sports car, which is the way all real sports cars are made. So, I mean, you know, all-wheel drive is for those guys who don't really know how to drive and they want like a cheater mod to try to go fast. Over here, we've got the man card, the 2J, attached to a rear drive sports car. This is what the real men will be driving. We'll have to see how this whole all-wheel drive thing works out. I'm guessing it's gonna be a giant disaster and a nightmare and potentially more parts to break. So
you know what? I'm gonna cut in a clip of the GTR doing all-wheel drive drifts. And then I'm gonna cut in a Supra sliding around a racetrack, trying to get traction.
Tsuchiya couldn't stop raving about
Is that fair to say? Is that fair to say? I think all-wheel drive is the ultimate in the Japanese tuner world for speed.
I've never seen the Mainz GTR drift. Maybe a four-wheel slide, but not a rear-wheel drive drift where you're steering the rear with the throttle. This thing is always going to have computers intervening. Are you really driving this car at all, Peter? I mean, it's just going to drive itself. This thing, you got to drive yourself. So that's my comparison of the greatest Japanese motor ever built to Pete's RB. Man, look at that, guys. It looks like the 2JZ would fit in the GTR pretty painlessly. The question is, can this chassis really handle that much motor? And is Pete really man enough to make a decision like 2J swapping his GTR? I don't know. Let us know in the comment section. Are you team 2J? Are you team RB? Am I crazy to think of putting a 2JZ in a GTR? I'm sure it's been done before. I'm sure there are guys who put JZs into R34 chassis all the time for drifting and whatnot, because that whole rear wheel drive conversation we just had and that whole 1,000 horsepower reliability conversation we just had, it's all right there on the floor. So let us know what team you're on right now. And eventually Pete and I will end this debate at the racetrack. But in the meantime, I'm gonna have a lot of fun with this whole your motor ain't a 2JZ bro thing. So thanks for watching, everyone. Hope you've been enjoying this R34 GTR content so far. I know I'm enjoying it a lot. And not just because it's fun to make fun of Pete, but because this is a really interesting car with a lot of tech in it. Maybe too much tech, but nevertheless, hope you're enjoying getting a sneak peek or a deeper look at this very cool, very rare JDM legend.
Everything seems to be fighting us right now, including, look at this. I just broke my 6-head Allen bit on here. I think it was partially due to my fault because I was kind of like yanking on it.